Amidst the ancient narratives of the Bible, the story of Enoch stands out as one of the most enigmatic and captivating. Unlike almost everyone else, Enoch did not experience death, but was taken alive into heaven, leaving behind no trace. What made this figure so special, and what can we learn from his remarkable destiny? The biblical account of Enoch is found in the book of Genesis, where it is stated that Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Genesis 5:24. This concise yet profound statement highlights Enoch's close relationship with the divine and his exceptional faith, which resulted in him being spared from the fate of death that befell most people of his time. Enoch was the great-grandson of Adam and the grandfather of Noah, the one who would survive the great flood. The meanings of the names in Enoch's lineage, from Adam to Noah, form a powerful narrative that conveys the story of the human condition, God's plan of redemption, and the promise of hope and comfort. This onomastic interpretation underscores the significance of Enoch's role within the larger biblical framework. While the biblical account of Enoch is relatively brief, the apocryphal book of Enoch provides additional details and legends surrounding his life and teachings. This ancient Jewish text, composed before the time of Christ, offers insights into Enoch's encounters with angels, his journeys through the heavenly realms, and his prophetic warnings to a morally corrupt humanity. The themes and imagery found in the Book of Enoch bear striking similarities to those in the biblical Book of Revelation, both exploring concepts of divine judgment, end-times prophecies, and the ultimate triumph of God's eternal kingdom. Enoch's extraordinary translation to heaven without experiencing death has been the subject of diverse interpretations within Christianity. Some see it as a foreshadowing of the rapture, where believers are caught up to meet the Lord in the air, as described in 1 Thessalonians 4:16-17. Others view it as a testament to the promise of immortality and life beyond death. Regardless of the specific interpretations, Enoch's story stands as a profound example of faith, righteousness, and God's extraordinary intervention in the lives of his people. His remarkable life and unique destiny continue to captivate and inspire believers, reminding us of the transformative power of walking closely with the divine. Enoch's rapture is seen as a foreshadowing of the final rapture, when God will gather the faithful at the end of times, an event whose timing is widely debated among Christians. The inclusion of Noah in this lineage underscores the continuity of challenges and faith throughout generations, linking the stories of salvation and redemption across the ages. Before the flood, the inhabitants of the earth had plunged into complete moral depravity. At that time, people lived for hundreds of years, which led some Christians to speculate about the existence of a vapor canopy around the planet. This canopy would have blocked harmful gamma rays and created a temperate climate worldwide. This theory suggests that the flood brought the first rain on Earth. In this context, Noah's preaching of the impending flood was largely ignored, a topic that deserves a separate discussion. Moreover, we see the figure of a faithful man living among a skeptical generation, similar to Elijah during the reign of King Ahab. At a critical moment, Elijah found himself the only prophet of God, in contrast to 450 opposing prophets. As for the extra biblical information, little is known about the history of Enoch, which leads us to uncertain ground. It is important to note that depending on the Christian tradition followed, the Book of Enoch may be considered canonical or not. For the purposes of this video, we will draw on only the 66 books of the canonical Bible, composed of the Old and New Testaments, leaving the Book of Enoch as an apocryphal work, a pseudepigraphical text attributed to an author who used a fictitious name. There are those who believe that the Bible quotes the book of Enoch in Jude 1:14-15 and 2 Peter 2:4-6, indicating that these passages may have been inspired by the Enochian traditions. Both in the case of the book of Enoch and in the narratives of the Apocalypse, we find apocalyptic texts that explore themes such as the end times, angels, the Nephilim, prophecies, and punishments intended for the wicked. After the flood, these texts present significant parallels, reflecting on cataclysmic events and the struggle between good and evil, living in a world marked by moral degradation. We are summoned, as in Enoch's time, to uphold righteousness and faith in God, despite facing mortality. Since we don't know the exact moment of Jesus' return, the promise of the rapture offers hope for Christians in the end times. According to 1 Thessalonians 4:13-18, both deceased Christians and those alive will be gathered together in this spectacular event, providing an opportunity to meet Jesus in the clouds and be raptured to be with him eternally. The discussion of the rapture prompts us to reflect on our faith journey and the promise of redemption. Understanding these concepts not only enriches our knowledge but also strengthens our spirit by guiding our personal search for divine guidance, strength, and fellowship. One of the mysteries intriguing society is the Enochian language, an aspect attributed to the 16th century occultists John Dee and Edward Kelly. It stands out for its peculiarity, as they claimed this angelic language allowed communication with the celestial realm. They asserted to have received it from angels, creating a complete system with its own alphabet and grammar, named Enochian after the biblical patriarch Enoch, who was believed to be the last human to know it. This language is embedded in the context of their occult practices, adding a layer of mystery and spirituality to Enoch's figure. Dee and Kelly used objects like an obsidian mirror and crystal ball to induce visions. They positioned themselves as mediators, raising prayers to God and archangels for 15 minutes before beginning sessions. They placed a symbolic object on the table and summoned angels to manifest during the sessions. They closely observed the stones and recorded visions and messages received. The angels informed them that this magical practice would confer superhuman powers, potentially altering Europe's political structure and foreshadowing the apocalypse. Dee believed his findings benefited future generations and compiled the received information into manuscripts and pamphlets. Although he never referred to the language as Enochian, he called it angelic, heavenly, or Adamic, claiming it to be the primordial language used by Adam in Eden to name God's creatures. Enoch, a biblical figure of remarkable uniqueness for not experiencing death, is mentioned in both the Old and New Testaments. This video clarifies who Enoch was according to the scriptures. Importantly, there are two individuals with the same name in the Bible. The first, the eldest son of Cain, who gave his name to a city built by his father, and the second, the son of Jared, belonging to the lineage of Seth. While the first Enoch is associated with Cain's descent, the second and most prominent is recognized for his just living and direct ascension to heaven. In addition to his noble lineage, Enoch is recognized as the father of Methuselah, the human being with the longest longevity recorded in Scripture, living to 969 years. However, Methuselah was not Enoch's only son. The Bible records that he had other sons and daughters, although their names are not mentioned. Enoch's close relationship with God is emphasized by the biblical statement that he walked with God, an expression used exclusively for Enoch and his great-grandson Noah. Enoch lived 365 years in deep communion with the divine until he was no longer found, for God took him. Some scholars propose that the 365 years of life attributed to Enoch may be symbolic, alluding to the days of a solar year, suggesting a full and blessed life. However, this interpretation faces challenges since Genesis 5 is a genealogical record that apparently does not use symbolic language. Moreover, if we consider Enoch's age as symbolic, the question arises of how to interpret the longevity of the other patriarchs mentioned in the same chapter without resorting to symbolism. If we assume the ages mentioned in the Bible must be interpreted literally, then Enoch's age must also be seen as literal. From this perspective, Enoch stands out as the pre-flood patriarch who lived the shortest time on earth, in direct contrast to his son Methuselah, who holds the record for longevity. The biblical narrative emphasizes not only Enoch's communion with God, but also the fact that he was taken by God, suggesting that living in God's immediate presence is an even greater privilege than a long earthly life. The biblical description of God leading Enoch to himself generated debate among interpreters. Some Jewish traditions interpret this passage metaphorically as a poetic way of expressing the early death of a righteous man. However, in Christianity, the prevailing interpretation is that Enoch was literally raptured to be in the presence of God. This view is corroborated by the letter to the Hebrews, which states that Enoch was taken so that he would not see death, and that God testified that he pleased him. Therefore, for those who believe in the full inspiration and inerrancy of the Bible, the most accepted conclusion is that Enoch was indeed raptured to heaven. Thus, Enoch and Elijah become the two Old Testament figures who did not pass through death, prefiguring the future rapture of the Church of Christ. Moreover, Enoch's rapture is significant in demonstrating that immortality was already a present concept from the earliest days of the Old Testament. The first book of Enoch, the best known of the three, is valued for its Ethiopian version and was already known in the apostolic period, cited by church fathers such as Clement of Alexandria and Tertullian. However, the original manuscript was lost, leaving only fragments in Greek and Ethiopian. Although suggesting an authorship of Enoch, scholars agree that these texts, dating from 200 BC to the end of the 1st century AD, were hardly written by the biblical Enoch. However, it is admitted that the Book of Enoch may contain authentic quotations from Enoch preserved by oral tradition. The figure of Enoch stands as a powerful reminder of the profound relationship with the divine that is possible for those who walk faithfully with God. May his life inspire us to cultivate our own spiritual communion and trust in the eternal promises awaiting those who remain steadfast. Though mysteries remain, Enoch's legacy crosses generations, spurring us to live righteously in anticipation of our heavenly destiny.